must flow through your veins to shut that heat. The blood that rushes your brain straight from your feet.
Remember, when you go through the script and you say, I'm not discussing my day, and the officer says, oh, you're going to play that game? You say, I'm not discussing my day. Don't crack. This is their way of trying to get you to talk. Remember, if they're talking to you, they have nothing to arrest you on. Otherwise, they'd arrest you and not talk to you. So shut the fuck up. Remember to not discuss your day. And that is your tip of the day. Share it with your friends so they don't get fucked and have to go pay a lawyer a lot of money to get them off of something that never should have happened if they shut the fuck up, didn't discuss their day. And that's your tip of the day.
Mark and Craig, potbrothersatlaw here with Snoop Dogg, and it's Shut the Fuck Up Friday. We are going to review the script. Big brother, what do you say when the cop first pulls you over?
Why can you over?
And when he starts asking questions?
I'm not discussing my day.
When he's trying to intimidate you, scare you, then what do you say?
Am I being detained or am I free to go?
And if detained, what do you say?
I invoke the fifth.
And Snoop, what do you do?
Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up and never consent to speech. You do, you keep smoking. We ask.
Mark and Craig, potbrothersatlaw here with the Sith Witch. All right. Can everybody hear us? Mm-hmm. Hear me? So before we start, I'm just curious, does anyone here know what to do when the cops ask questions? Please tell me.
Shut the fuck up.
Hey, we're done.
Everybody knows.
Good enough. If it were only that easy. If it were only that easy. So,
I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank CounterCon for having us out here in beautiful New York City.
and for those of you who don't know who we are, I'm Mark Wasserman. Together with my big brother Craig, we are known as the Pot Brothers at Law. We're California attorneys handling all aspects of cannabis business licensing and regulations, as well as all areas of criminal defense. We also have a worldwide attorney referral network system that we've created through our large social media following. We have over 1 million viewers across all social media, and we have over 800 million views collectively on our educational videos. Most importantly, and the reason why we're all here, we teach people to peacefully engage with law enforcement by using 25 simple words known as the script, and to shut the fuck up when cops ask questions. Now, we have trademarked and copyrighted the script for legal services, and shut the fuck up is trademarked as well. And we are here to teach you the etiquette of engaging law enforcement. And we like to start with a little bit of introduction. My brother will tell you how he got into law and his areas of practice. Way back, what, in the 30s?
No, it was the way they refer to it now is the early 1900s. The mid-1900s. Doesn't that sound a long time ago? I've been practicing since 1986. And I really started getting into the cannabis space. I mean, I've been smoking cannabis since I was 16. And it wasn't until my brother actually got into criminal law that we started doing cannabis law. My son, at an early age, liked cannabis. It helped him with a lot of issues. He then wanted to get into selling cannabis and growing cannabis in California under the old rules.
I think it's important that you tell people that when he was 14, 15, that you suggested he use cannabis instead of other medication that doctors wanted him to use.
They wanted him to take all kinds of other medication. We were going through a really rough patch. And instead, I showed him cannabis. And cannabis worked for him. And
little did we know.
Little did we know he'd become the icon he is today. My son out of California, Jay Cures of West Coast Cure, which is they have a concentrate company and pre-rolls and in the legal space in California. So once he wanted to get into the space, we decided we better learn the laws.
Once my nephew started getting arrested and I had to represent him, we were making sure that the way he was doing things was proper under California law back then, which had it still as felonies first, and if you were doing A to Z, you had a defense. And that is what we took to task and to heart when he showed he wanted to do this. You know, like I told him and all my other clients in California, I'm going to teach you how to commit the felonies of cultivating, of distributing, of possession, of sales, but you got to do it. Here's the manual. It was right in the law. Do it this way. We'll have a defense after you get caught. And the most important thing, though, was how to deal with law enforcement. So before we even get to that as a defense, we get to everything else.
And that's where STFU was really born, was from my son. And my son went through 2 different felony cases back in the day.
And he grew up hearing us beat into him, you shut the fuck up,
you never consent to a search. Ever, you shut the fuck up and don't consent to a search. Because the only reason they're talking to you, law enforcement, is because they don't have enough to arrest you on. Otherwise, they would just arrest you. If they're talking to you, that means they don't have enough to arrest you on. And we hammered it into his head. So when he picked up these cases, without going into a lot of detail about
the first case first.
First one? So
Home robbery.
Home robbery. He had 24 plants he was growing for patients. He had all the patient information. He had all the, under the law, the stuff that he needed. But back then, it was still a felony first, and then you'd show him you're doing it correctly. You could potentially beat the felonies. So he had a home invasion. He actually fought off the guys. They ran away. Manager calls the police. Police come, and they, believe it or not, profile my kid. He's a shorter kid. It was in the morning, wearing a wife beater and like boxer shorts, and they're like, "Why did you get robbed? What's in your place?" Like, he's like, TVs? I mean, you know, but they just knew something was up. And he refused to let them in the house. He refused to consent to a search. And they had him on the curb. This is him, his place getting robbed. Now he's on the curb. And he has his keys next to him. And they finally come out and ask him after 40 minutes, and we hear this on the video and audio that we got later from the whole transaction, where you hear him, "We're going to get in the house. We're going to get in the house. We know something's going on. We know something's in there."
The cops often forget that they're mic'd up. You know, just remember that.
Believe it or not. And they come back to my kid. He's sitting on the curb. They point down and say, "Are those your keys?" He says, "Yes, but I don't consent to a search." Because when they came, he came out with his keys and locked the door so they couldn't just walk in.
Okay?
Water went down the wrong way. So ultimately, they point to the keys and then they pick them up. Go in the house, and oh my God, I think he had like 24 plants. And they made it seem like it was a...
Made the local papers, it was like the biggest drug bust.
Like $1 million or something. It was ridiculous. But be that as it may, my son said he did not consent. So once we get the audio back, right when the cop says, and this is the first of what is going to happen twice in his lifetime, where this happened, different police department, we're watching it and we're listening, and right when he points down to the keys, the audio literally goes,
where he supposedly said, "I consent."
So we actually fight the case.
No, we hired attorneys.
I know.
Yeah, come on.
So I guess this is what catapulted us into the business. Is we hired an attorney because we're like, we shouldn't really represent our own kid. It's like working on your family as a doctor. And we told him that my kid was ready to go to jail. He's like, "I didn't consent."
We had him doing everything.
They didn't have probable cause to get in. There's no way we're going to make a deal.
And we found these 2 brother attorneys.
That's even funnier.
In a nice high-rise somewhere.
And we went in and said, my son said, we're not going to take a deal. We're going to fight this. And we want to run a motion because we knew what to do. We just weren't comfortable at that minute representing the kid. So the very first court appearance, my brother goes down and he's sitting there in his civilian clothes, and the other attorney has my son in the courtroom, comes out of the courtroom.
It was the younger brother.
Who we told we didn't want to go. We wanted the older brother. We said, "We want you to go to court." And so that he sent his brother.
After saying he was.
And then so he leaves my son in the courtroom, comes out, talking to the district attorney. My brother's sitting right next to him. They had not met my brother, the attorney that was sent. And he says, "Yeah, I'll get him to take 90 days felony." What the fuck?
I was waiting. So I was outside the hall when he was talking to the DA, and I heard all this. And I just waited outside the hall, and I was waiting to hear my nephew's voice, because I knew what was coming when he went in there and told him, "All right, this is the deal. You're going to take this, and you're not going to go to jail. You're going to get this." And I heard it. I fucking told you I'm not taking deals. That's
So we subbed in.
Well, no, we went back to their place
yeah.
with me, and the guys turned white as a ghost, and we fired them. Got them.
Well, they're what you call, and this happens in every state. Bleed them and plead them, attorneys. Bleed them, get their money, and then plead them out as quick as possible, because the fewer almost 99% of attorneys in criminal law do flat fee. So if you can just make one appearance, bam, you made a lot of money. And that's just, our criminal cases might take 10 appearances. Because we don't just roll over, we're gonna fight. So eventually, we got rid of them, we filed the motion, went to court, my son's on the stand testified that he did not consent to a search.
No. The first case was they didn't even we went to court, and the DA, the special DA came in after we were dealing with these other ding-dongs for a year.
No, we still put the case on, but they didn't testify. The cop didn't testify,
right,
because the special DA looked at the video, saw what we were saying.
Same video the other DAs looked at.
Right.
And they went forward saying, we were at court. The special DA comes in, okay, looked at the video, and what happened?
The cop didn't testify. He would have had to perjure himself. So my son got on the stand, because he still got to have the hearing. My son said he didn't consent, even though that's what it said in the police report. And if he did, he was disowned from the family. That's what he told the judge. And ultimately, the judge threw the case out because he believed my son didn't consent. There was a police report with no cop testifying. And this is going to repeat itself a couple years later when he had a delivery service. And again, the cop, same exact scenario. At one point during the stop, the audio goes blank, and he said that's when he consented. Same thing, got on the stand, I don't consent to searches. My uncle, dad lawyers, cop actually got on the stand on this one. And we ate her lunch because she lied through her teeth that my kid consented to a search.
Well, so the card, if everyone didn't get this card on your seat, we have them, and this card has the 25 words on it. And we tell you to keep it in your wallet behind your ID. And my nephew took this card and gave it to the officers, and we see this all on the video. And when I had her on the stand, we got to that part of the video, and I said, is this the card? And I approached, I said, will you please read it? And she read this. To the court, to the judge, I do not consent to a search to any police officer or law enforcement personnel. I am invoking my Fifth Amendment Miranda rights, and I will only speak to you with my attorney present. Please allow me to contact my attorney. And then she gets him out of the car, walks him around, all on video, and then they're off on the curb, out of view from the video now. And she comes, and this is all illustrated in the police report, back in view, gloves on, and starts searching. The audio, as she's going over there, she says he sat down on the curb, and then that's where he gave consent. Right there, again, like in the other one, the audio, So when I had her on the stand, I asked about what happened to the audio. It's pretty convenient that it's not there. Oh, technical issue, this, that, and the other, whatever. And I said, well, my nephew said that he'd be basically beaten to death if he talked to cops.
Plus he just handed her this card 3 minutes earlier saying I do not consent to a search.
So I said, I'm very curious. 3 minutes before you say he consented, that we can't hear, he gave you this card that you just read that said, I do not consent, and we've been teaching him his whole life not to consent and talk to cops, but he did? What did you say? How did you do it? I gotta know. You're a genius. How'd you get him to flip like that in 3 minutes? And she said, well, the time you're confusing me. And I said, oh, well, maybe you're a liar, which you don't say that as an attorney. I've been doing it 26 years. I've never done that since. I never did it before. You let the judge and the people make that decision. And the judge glared at me, but I was pissed. I was fuming.
So the judge found he did not consent, didn't believe her at all, and dismissed the 4 felonies that he was up against at that time. And then the best part was after all this, because he was doing it all correctly like we told him, we did a motion for return of the evidence, and we got to walk out of the Newport Beach, California Police Department with a box full
Locker 420.
all of his cannabis that he was selling. Guns.
Cannabis.
No guns. Money. Phones. Yeah, the guns were hidden. No. But that's kind of what started us off.
Well, him
And
his son.
then, so fast forward after these 2 cases, and then Instagram comes online, and he's like, Dad, you guys need to do Instagram. You need to do Instagram. I'm over Facebook, and this was, in 2015, I was over Facebook. And so he actually approaches us and says, Dad, I got a guy I know, a real good friend of mine. His name is Adam, and there's a show on Be Real TV called Getting High With. And it's a talk show where he had people come in and smoke blunts and joints and bongs and pipes.
Mostly rappers and celebrities.
But they wanted he wanted attorneys to talk about the upcoming Prop 64, which
smoke with him.
and actually smoke at the same time and use the cannabis.
And they couldn't find any attorneys.
None. So
this kid says, my uncle and dad will do it without talking to us. And he comes to the office this one day and says that. And I said, oh, kid, where do we go? He was like, wait. No, what about the state bar? We're going to be smoking. And so he wasn't so quick to want to do that.
But we still did it that evening. We went, we did the show.
Everything was legal. We had our medical cards. It was a private place.
Right.
We went through all the little analysis. In fact, we're not doing anything wrong. Let's go. Who's going to be watching? A bunch of stoners.
Right. It's all streaming on the internet. And so we did the whole show, and we actually went about an hour and a half, which is the longest he's ever had. And we interacted with the live stream. And after we were done, my son's like, Dad, you've got to do Instagram. So we had teased years earlier about being brothers, we're attorneys, we smoke pot.
Potbrothersatlaw.
So I went online, like literally as we were there, because we took some pictures with Be Real, which was really cool, really great guy. And came up with potbrothersatlaw. So it's pot_law_at_blah, because I kept putting a space in. I didn't know it put an underscore. So that's why it's POT_ everywhere, because I thought it was just a space. We put up, we started our page, we put up Be Real and a couple tips, and then we decided, my son's like, Dad, no one gives this kind of advice to people. And it's so easy, and it's like, if you want to talk to a lawyer, you got to spend $500 and go in and get a consult. And we felt that what we were going to teach to people didn't require a consult. It didn't require come in and then I'll tell you how to shut the fuck up. Or usually it's after you get busted, then we tell you this is what you should have done.
Preventative.
And so we started doing the legal tips. We started off as legal tips in California because we're California lawyers. We don't practice in other states. But because of the nature of our shut the fuck up, don't consent to a search, it's don't incriminate yourself. There's illegal search and seizure laws. These are all constitutional law that applies in every single state. So it went from this California thing to all of a sudden nationwide because it applies in every state. Your constitutional rights to be free from unreasonable search and seizure is in every state, period.
And when we started teaching what we were talking about, it was just shut the fuck up, don't consent to searches. And as we were spreading that around, we were getting lots of questions.
Right, do I just ignore the cop? So there's 25 words you'll see on the back here that we call the script. It started as just shutting the fuck up, telling people to shut the fuck up. And then people, what if I just don't talk to him, go mute? Cop's gonna be pissed. Or you say it's none of your business, I'm not talking to you.
What do I say if he
cop
does
might
this?
be pissed.
Or the cop
Now,
does that?
no matter what you do, the cop still might be pissed. And they still might be an ass, and they still might throw you a beat. There's nothing we can really do